This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Alongside Garrett Ross, who, again, whenever we're standing across this table, I regret the decision to do this show standing up.
Well, I hate that for you.
You really don't. You know, here's the thing that tall people don't understand.
Okay.
You'll never, what's your struggle? You have to duck sometimes?
Oh, definitely, dude. It's okay. One of the biggest struggles for me is getting a case of water at the grocery store. And if it's been about halfway picked through and you got to really duck under and work in there to get it, that can feel like you're working at a warehouse getting groceries, and it's a bit annoying. That or hitting your head like on a ceiling fan or something, that will get you.
All right.
I've had a few incidents.
Oh, look, I think that is a small price to pay for. There are dishes that I just don't use because I have to get the stool out to get them.
Okay, I will counter with there is a cabinet in my house where most of my pans and stuff are at.
Yeah.
And if there is something in the back, I'll have to call my daughter or somebody to come in because I cannot get down and see to get in there. It's a two-way street here.
I have the same issue with a cabinet in my house because it's got a deep corner because I have short arms.
I can see that.
And so I have to take things out and then literally go in it.
Yeah.
Like a gnome.
I can't tell you how many times I'll be in the grocery store and you walk down an aisle and you can see it. There'll be a lady or something just kind of peering on the top of a shelf. And I'm always having to get grocery or stuff for people because of that. They just can't reach or be in the very back. So it comes with the territory.
But do you know how many times I've been in the grocery store alone and had to do the leap up to get something? That is, and the thing is, this is what you have to do. And short people on the chat, you can probably identify this with me because it could be middle of the day, nobody there, there's nobody around. I've been doing late at night. I've had to go get something, and then I'll look and you'll see nothing. Oh, it's still on the they take it
at the very top.
They take it out of the box in case people need it, but it's still kind of the box. The other full box of it is behind it, and so oh great, Rotel tomatoes up there. All right.
Business decision. Just go for it.
And then you get it, and you're like, woo! Yes! All right. And then the minute that you're excited that you jumped up and did something athletic, somebody comes around the corner and they're like, what? It's not great. It's not great. I would rather have to duck to get the water.
Okay. I've been in situations where I think that it's a two-way street that you can have benefits of both. But I wouldn't change it. I like being tall. I enjoy being tall.
I'll tell you right now, there is no benefit in life to being 5'7".
None whatsoever. You can fly a jet. I can't even sit in a damn jet or a tank or something. They wouldn't fit me. I couldn't fit in that.
What? Why would I want to do that?
Why wouldn't you want to fly a jet?
Be a pilot?
Yeah. I can't be a freaking pilot. I'm too tall. They can't fit in a cockpit. At least you could do that.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess. I mean, that's the, is that what the world gave us is hey, you could be a fighter pilot.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what was on the agenda. There's things you could do, though.
So, I mean, do you think it was a conspiracy by short people? Listen, we're not going to make these cockpits very deep. I mean, aerodynamically, it's better. And then, when a guy like Garrett's I've always wanted to be a pilot, and too tough crap, Jolly Green Giant.
See? And that's the thing. You can't do it.
Oh, yeah, I can't be on a submarine. Who wants to be on a submarine?
I would not want to be on. I don't want to be on a ship. I don't want to be on a submarine. None of that. I don't want to be stranded in the ocean.
Yeah. So, I don't know. If the one benefit is fighter pilot, that I could be Maverick.
Well, that was the only thing that came. I'm pretty sure there are some other things. That was just the initial thought.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'll never be a fighter.
Yeah. You'll never be a fighter pilot.
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. By the way, before we get started on our main topic, wild night in the Big 12 once again last night.
Was.
In basketball. We're going to talk a little more basketball. Bracket Cat thrilled that that his Cats beat Baylor. Jerome Tang now 3-0 against his best buddy Scott Drew.
Yeah.
Which is, okay, so for years, I'll tell you this, Scott Drew would not play He won't play his brother. He's not going to play Paul Mills. He and Matt Driscoll have never played each other. Like, that's never the rule is only in the tournament. Well, now, not only does he have Jerome Tang, but he has Grant McCaslin, who's at Tech. And so he has that thing. So part of it might be like, look, I don't want to play them because I'm at a bit of a disadvantage because I taught these people.
They know everything. They know everything
that I know. Yeah. So, and the thing is, once you teach somebody something and then they leave, they know most of what you do, but you have to keep maybe one step ahead.
Yeah.
So, but the only person this doesn't really apply to is apparently Nick Saban, who was always Jimbo got him once, Kirby got him twice. Like,
see, that's what I'm saying. Like, Kirby got him. Sark went in there. Sark got him.
I was telling Jack Lane never got him.
Lane never got him, but he came close. Because I told Jack this morning, it almost felt like the Ninja Turtles with Master Splinter getting all of them ready. You know, and they all started surpassing him in the skills and go on. And then Master Splinter hung it up. But that's kind of what it reminded me of. But no, it's it's difficult when you train somebody or you bring somebody up and they know literally your next move. And then I think that the unique thing with that is if you have a coach, like to me, I feel like Tang, one advantage he had was he was always the specialist, like on the inbounds and those. And when you look like last night,
he had a great one last night. Yeah.
Like you can see it was coming, man. And there's little things like that you just can't get over because you could train somebody, but they might have an edge in an area where you don't. But I mean, that's life in the Big 12.
Yeah, I don't think things have changed. Like, I think Jerome Tang is a big loss for anybody who would lose him as a coach.
Is.
But I don't think that it's been like one of these things. Like sometimes it's not been like the Philadelphia Eagles losing both their coordinators,
right?
And then 11 games into the year, the whole league figured them out.
Yeah.
Like that was like everybody was, they were able to kind of get by. And then like when they got to the teeth of their schedule, people were like, oh, wait a minute, these new guys aren't really that good, or not yet. I mean, we'll see. I mean, it got so bad that the Eagles were like, yeah, Matt Patricia, you're in charge now. But yeah, so I don't think it's like that. But it is one of the things that when you're up against each other, you have that thing. And there's a lot of emotion between those two because they are so close. Like, and of course, you can't work for Scott Drew and not like him. And be really close because he breathes that atmosphere of family. So, it was a great game. Kansas State doesn't have which is why it was kind of surprising. I thought, like, watching the game, like, Baylor has not shot well. They've not made free throws, but I still feel like they're going to win the game just because Kansas State doesn't seem to have a guy who's going to take over this thing. But they did it in the aggregate. They just got big shots from different guys, and Baylor squandered some opportunities. I do think that that ball that they called out of bounds on Ray J. Dennis at the end in the overtime. I don't think that one angle showed anything other than you couldn't see where the ball was. I don't know if he touched it or not. And I get that that's where they initially did because you're like, I don't know. But the second video had no evidence that it hit him.
No.
And the first one, you're like, I guess it's inconclusive, but I don't think he touched the ball. But other than that, like one minor situation, Baylor was still leading when that happened. So, Kansas State was a great game. I mean, and again, like what Baylor made the mistake of doing on the road in the Big 12 is when you have a lead, you've got to play perfect.
Yeah.
You can't make stupid mistakes because you're in the octagon of doom there. Like the one thing you want to do is you want the crowd to be like, oh, this is dumb. But the minute they're like, oh my God, that place just ignites.
No, that was the thing. Like, because if you look, every time like Kansas State would get back into the game, Baylor found a way because they were simply the more talented team. They would find a way to separate and they would build a lead. They would build like 5 or 6 points. But man, hats off to Kansas State. They never gave up. They kept fighting. They were really that was a really gutsy win for them at home. They would always find ways to just come up with big plays to swing the momentum in their favor and get the crowd back into it. And Baylor just wasn't able to keep up at the end. Now, it's weird to think that Drew is 0-3 against Tang. I know a lot of people put stuff on that, but he's going to get his. It's going to be fine. So I know there's a lot of Baylor people out there that are panicking with that, but I would just don't even look into that.
No. All right, so here's our first college football topic of the day. We're start doing we'll throw random topics in. At the end, we're going to talk to the NFL and some coaching changes and things that are going on in the playoffs. But first college football topic today, Garrett.
Okay.
Other than Kirby Smart, who's already been doing it.
Yeah.
But other than him, which coach, especially which one is best positioned to take advantage of the Saban vacuum when it comes to talent acquisition?
Sark.
Yeah.
Sark. I think Sark is already doing it. I think that he is. So, like, I was thinking about this. So, a couple of weeks ago when Simi was on with you, and y'all were talking about Texas and where they're at, and I made the comment that I thought Texas missed their window. But after Saban,
But then, like, then
it hit me. I'm like, you know what? Sark's actually the perfect coach. Him, Kirby, Dan Lanning. I think those three, Dan Lanning and Sark, are the ones that can kind of most pick up and benefit from this. I would throw Lane Kiffin in there as well. But those four coaches,
I'm going to put in Mike Norvell since he's already got 5 of them.
That would work as well. And maybe that's me. That's I always kind of forget about Norvell, and I don't know why. But yeah, you're right.
So like those guys, like here's the deal, and like part of this is that this was the first time that Alabama looked vulnerable during the season. Like not like, oh, they lost a couple of close games.
They look like
or
a regular team.
But they looked like there were times where it's like they're good, but they're not great. Like that was not like even 2 years ago, Bryce Young's last year, they were not as spectacular because they didn't have some of the thing that was hurting them was they didn't have the wide receivers that they'd had before.
Yeah.
And so you could tell that because that finally the attrition at that position had caught up to them a little bit. But they were good enough everywhere else where, they lost to LSU in the last possession and they lost to
Georgia,
Tennessee on the
yeah,
field goal. So they lost to 2 really good teams on the last possession of the game. So, and this year, look, they lost to Texas. They didn't lose to anybody else, but every other game was like kind of dicey, and that was the effects of the depth not being there that they had before. Where to beat Alabama, you had to and it was the same, but like they just had these things that were going on. You could see that maybe it was starting to turn to where they were not so invincible. And I don't think Nick Saban, he said this was a difficult season and all that, and maybe that was why. But when you look around, like eventually, people hire coaches to beat you and it starts to work.
Yep.
So I'll use the example of Mac Brown. Mac Brown got Texas so good, and so it was essentially – Bob Stoops and Mac Brown running the Big 12. And Nebraska had dipped enough. They weren't in their totally tragic phase yet, but they had dipped enough before, the break of the Big 12.
Era?
Yeah. And I guess maybe the early Bo Pelini era.
Oh, yeah.
So like that. There was Bo Pelini had them a little bit back up on the upswing a little, not to where they were, but it looked like maybe they were going to figure themselves out. And this again before the breakup of the first breakup of the Big 12, before Nebraska and Colorado, before all that. But you started to notice when Texas started to maybe fall back a little bit is because A&M and Baylor and Tech and all these they had hired coaches with a specific mission, and not even really of Oklahoma, which is why I think part of the reason Oklahoma was able to dominate the conference. Texas was always such a magnet for people's well, we got to figure them out.
Right.
And then they did, everybody did. They had coaches to beat them. And then Oklahoma was just this genius coach we found, Lincoln Riley, was at East Carolina. What do you know about that?
Yeah.
He's from your state. It's weird. We're going to take him and he's going to do this now. So Oklahoma never had that dip.
Yeah.
Until Lincoln Riley left, and even then their dip wasn't as bad as most would have been. So so they hire coaches to beat you. So finally, somebody hired a coach that could regularly win the SEC. That's not Alabama, and that's Georgia. And then you look around the rest of the country, okay, we're going to start hiring people who learned on you or people who learned under Kirby. So you've got Dan Lanning, or then you've got, Mike Norvell has no connection to any of them, but he's one of the best up-and-comers. Sark, a Saban guy. Kiffin, a Saban guy. So because of that, and you've got all these people that he taught how to recruit. Well, he's also losing recruits to those guys, and the depth is hurt. So you have that. So yeah, there was always this kind of waiting. Nobody knew when it was going to be. But I do think that the guys we've mentioned, another one I'll throw out. I think Dabo will get a little bit off of it because he is, especially high school players. He's not going to feast on this roster like everybody else is.
No, but I mean, at this point, he's going to have to, right? Like, there's no excuses. There's no Alabama in your way if you're Dabo. Really, at this point, it's can you get out of your own way and finally compete? Yeah, I think that this is probably an awakening for him to where he's going to have to do that. Now, if he wants to take that next step and finally get Clemson back to competing for championships again, then he's going to have to start going and grabbing some of those people that are off of Alabama's roster. And I don't know if he's there yet, and that's what kind of makes me apprehensive with him.
All right, here's another coach on the Saban tree who has a long-term contract. We heard from Manny Navarro yesterday that he doesn't he's got plenty of leeway to rebuild the program. Mario Cristobal is on the Saban tree. He was the offensive line coach for Nick Saban for a little while. So he's another guy on the Saban tree being where he is and having kind of carte blanche right now. What he might be able to take advantage of it because if he can just get things going his way, if Cam Ward can win some games for them, if they can go 9-3 this year, even if that 9-3 means losing to the three best teams on the schedule, it's progress. It's progress for Cam Ward too because he's not ever gone 9-3. So all of that. So if they can go 9-3, then that is something where, oh my gosh, okay, then you go get the next quarterback, and then you can start building around it. I do think that Miami's in a good spot. Billy Napier, Florida, another Saban disciple, but he's they're in a really weird way. What about Brian Kelly?
Brian Kelly needs to be. I think that right now, if you look at when his first year was there, he was able to beat Bama. Obviously, that wasn't the case this year, but you did have a Heisman-winning quarterback. Your defense was just ass. I think you're doing a good job right now, if from Brian Kelly, of hiring the right people on defense to kind of shore that up. You have the top quarterback, running back, and receiver in the 2025 class, so recruiting's rolling. Yeah, I think he can, man. LSU's always going to have the talent. It's just you got to be consistent with it, and you got to find a way now with Texas coming in to really compete with the oil money. And I don't that's the thing that makes me nervous is you're going to be able to win. I think LSU can consistently get the 12-team playoff, but as far as winning championships, they're going to have to find the money because with Texas coming in and Oregon's the deep pockets, at Oregon and Georgia, it's going to be very difficult, but they are a team to keep an eye on. I just am a little nervous about them fully being able to take advantage of it right now.
All right. So I want to run through real quick just so people can get the scope of how seismic this is roster-wise, just in one season. And we're talking long-term here, where this is all of Saban's players are going to be picked through in the next couple years, right? That's going to be done, But as far as the ability, and like we talked about yesterday, where Nick Saban could just roll into a place, and if Alabama got into somebody late, everybody who's recruiting him was crap. I really hope this kid just really loves Gainesville or really loves this place because
it's like Texas getting in on a Baylor or TCU recruit at the end.
It was just how it is. They okay, all right. Well, that quarterback he went to USC. All right, okay. Well, the other guy went to Oregon. Okay, he's pretty well signed there. All right. Well, who's A&M's guy?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
we liked him too. Let's
take him.
Let's give him a call. And so then that's kind of how it works. I think Jalen Milroe. Jalen Hurts, and Eli Holstein were all, I think, committed or down the road to A&M. Eli Holstein, I know was, and so was Milroe. I think Jalen Hurts was everybody thought that's where he was going to go, and then Alabama was like, no,
you're coming here.
You know where's a great place? Tuscaloosa, Alabama. What's A&M ever done? Yeah,
exactly.
That. Of course, there's no better personality match than Jalen Hurts and Nick Saban. No, they were peas in a pod.
Yeah.
And. So, but just to here's how the roster just had. Look, Washington has had an offensive lineman, a defensive back, another offensive lineman enter the portal just this morning. Okay. So, those guys are, they've already had a lot, and they were losing a lot. Jabbar Muhammad is visiting Alabama on Friday. He's visiting Texas today.
He's going to Texas. I think he's going to Texas.
Well, he's from Texas.
He's from DeSoto, and his cousin. Yeah, he's going to go there.
Yeah. So he was at Tech before, Jabbar Muhammad, and now so that's going to be a nice little pickup for Texas. Alabama, in the last 24 hours, offensive lineman Caden Proctor a tackle. He's one of the top dudes in the 2023 class. Number 9 overall recruit. He's in the transfer portal, so he'll be able to go wherever he wants to go. SEC Freshman of the Year, and this one's huge. Caleb Downs. He's in the transfer portal. Now, most people think he's going to go follow Travaris Robinson to Georgia because that's his guy. And I would think that that's maybe the case, except for the fact that, like, this all gets different when this fish is in the water.
Yes.
Like, he's probably going to Georgia, but it would not shock me to see somebody come out of nowhere and get Caleb Downs because he appears to be somebody, I mean.
I think when he immediately when he hit the portal, Georgia was my first thought. It's always like, this is how, to me, I think it's going to be this pecking order. It's always going to be Georgia first. Now it's going to be Texas, and then the field.
Yeah.
You're either going to have Oregon come in, you're going to have Ohio State or somebody.
Yeah.
I think he's going to end up either Georgia or he's going to end up at Texas. It sucks for the rest of the people because you're kind of in this situation where you're in a no man's land. If you're even looking at, like, I wouldn't say other blue blood. Well, yeah. Some blue bloods like USC and them, they know they're not in the mix. But it's just crazy now that we have the separation where Georgia and Texas are so much ahead of everybody that they literally can have the pick of the litter, and everybody else is just scrambling for the leftovers. So, yeah, he with an important piece like Caleb Downs hitting the portal, that's going to be interesting. But I think he's definitely going to be in Georgia or Texas.
Yeah. So Des Ricks, cornerback, is going to A&M. And that was another high 2023 guy. Kendrick Blackshear, he's going to Texas. And he was good in high school. He hadn't done anything yet.
No.
He only had 16 tackles this year. And I think 7 of them were on special teams. Not that those aren't important. It just.
But you pair him with Anthony Hill, like, that's going to be,
So that's just from those two schools because of the Saban decision. And we haven't even heard about what's really good. Like, Arizona, I think, had like one guy jump in so far.
Yeah, you had your running back. I think you got a couple more, but nothing like McMillan and them and
Lafita
they're staying put
so far. They're there. Like that's where they are. I mean, like there's going to be linebackers and things like that, but they're seismic shift, and we're going to talk about Arizona next. But yeah, like just from those two schools, and I'm really curious to see how Jed Fish rebuilds the roster at Washington because Kalen DeBoer was going to have to do that anyway.
Yeah.
Like, even if he wasn't leaving, like, he was losing all those guys to the NFL no matter what.
Right.
Like, the portal guys were just added sauce on top of this that are happening because he went to Alabama. But he was going to have to, at least get probably 17 new starters.
Isn't Washington another one of those programs that's kind of like in some financial trouble too? Like,
I don't think so anymore. I think now the Big Ten thing makes everything cool, but even though they're a partial share like Oregon, partial share there is better than nothing. Yeah. So, so Washington, they gave Jed Fish got double his salary, to go there. So, but Alabama, like what Kalen DeBoer can do in this window, to keep maybe get some of these guys out of the portal, like convince them, but he's already been there a week, and you've got guys like Proctor and Desiree like already going in.
He's not going to keep, but he's not keeping the headlining guys.
And I also don't think that any of this is an indictment on Kalen DeBoer. It's just these guys went to go play for Nick Saban. Like, and when you take him out of the equation,
Bama's just another school.
Yeah, Bama's just another school. So like, I went to go play for Nick Saban. I was going to play for that guy. Now he's gone. So do I really love it here, or did I want to play for Nick Saban?
Right.
And that's the thing that's going to change everything. And there's nobody that's going to be like that. Like, there might be people who like, man, I really want to play for Sark, or I want to play for this. But, those guys just aren't going to have the pelts on the wall, that Nick Saban did.
No, but I think it's different, though.
They will. But, like, Texas and Georgia have these, like, built-in advantages that will get more, and of course they are the Saban disciples. And the thing that they have that, say, Lane Kiffin doesn't have at Ole Miss is that Texas has won and Georgia has won through different eras of college football, where Ole Miss is old. Yeah. They are old. Yeah, they are old. They're old, but they are not, like, they have no real history to speak of when it comes to. They've never won a conference title. They've never won a national title. They've won some bowl games. Like, they've had good years. Yeah. But they've never had a program transformative year, which is what they're trying to do right now, and we'll see if it works for them. But they've never had it before. And they did lose a player that they got. Tyler Barron from Tennessee is going to Louisville now. So watch out ACC because that guy's pretty good.
That's going to be a program that might be able to.
Well, and look, he got a couple of Alabama players before Saban even left. So but I'm curious to see what they do with Jeff Brom. There, but that's kind of probably on that next tier.
Yeah,
and. Yeah, that's.
Are you surprised? I was just thinking about this with the teams coming in and where we're at. Are you surprised? Because I'm still confused on where they're going to be in the SEC. Are you surprised that Oklahoma hasn't been able to benefit the way other programs are? Like Oklahoma is considered a blue blood. They're looked at like. Are you surprised that they haven't been able to take advantage in a way like Texas or Georgia have been able to?
Yeah, I know. I think that's like and remember who Venables worked for before he was there. He worked for Dabo, so he might have a little bit of that. I mean, he's got to take players out of the portal, and he's taken a lot of players out of the portal. But they haven't. I don't think they. I don't think they found their true north yet.
No,
I actually think that it's coming. Like, I think Seth Luttrell is offensive coordinator. I think it's coming. Like, where it's going to be like, oh, this is Oklahoma now.
Right.
Jackson Arnold's going to help with that.
He's good. Yeah, he should.
He's going to help with that because I think he's going to be a really good player. And then to me, it's just about they don't have what they have not had is they've not had those since CeeDee Lamb left, they haven't had one of him. And the thing is, before CeeDee Lamb, I mean, he's one of the best ones, obviously. But they had guys like Malcolm Kelly and they had dudes that just it was you go back, CeeDee Lamb, Malcolm Kelly, whoever it was that were just really good wide receivers and playmakers, and they just haven't had the guy who's the alpha yet.
No,
they've got a lot of goods.
They don't have a lot of Drake Stoops.
Yeah, they've got a lot of goods. They don't have any greats yet, and they've got a couple guys who I think are going to be there maybe, but they had injuries at that position. I am surprised though that you don't hear Oklahoma mentioned more in some of these transfers like that. Yeah. I'm a little bit surprised with that. Yeah, I am because. That's a place that can,
especially going into the SEC. You would think that you would want to stock up, and you would do that. But I don't know. That's one thing that's kind of been curious to me is this is a brand that's going in, and they're kind of lost in the shuffle. It seems at times as this landscape is changing, and I don't know if that's maybe just the personality of having that defensive-minded coach that isn't always on social media, or so. I think that's a lot of it that plays into it. Is having a coach that knows how to navigate and relate to the kids. Like that, that's different. And I think you have a handful, 4 or 5 coaches that can actually do that now.
Yeah. So in this cycle, they got Casey Thompson, who is the backup quarterback. Is essentially a GA who's got shoulder pads. Jake Roberts from Baylor.
Woo.
Michael Tarkin, an offensive lineman from USC. Caden Willard, this is a good one, the edge from Miami, Ohio. And Jacelyn Malaska, cornerback from Utah. So they're not they've lost way more players than they've gotten. Bauer Sharp, a tight end, they got him, and running back Samuel Franklin's going there. Wide receiver Deion Burks from Purdue. Okay, there's your wide receiver right there. That's a good one. Yeah, they got some early in the process that maybe we're forgetting about. Spencer Brown from Michigan State. So they look like they have been, but they're not in Deion. All of those people I mentioned, Deion Burks is probably the most well known,
right?
And so they lost Caden Green, which was that was a big name that they lost to Mizzou. So, I'm a little surprised, that they're not in on some of the bigger names. But then again, also, if they can find these guys and coach them up, then, that fits their system maybe a little bit better.
You can, but all right, I think a good example of that, you could probably say, Stutzman. But realistically, he would be a third option on most of the Oklahoma teams traditionally.
Yeah. Well, linebacker. That's the other thing though. They did keep they've lost some guys, but other than Caden Green, you could have right. That's just what everybody's going to lose players in the portal now.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's going to lose them, and it's going to hurt your depth. What you hope you don't lose is somebody who is either going to start for you in the next couple years that you have to replace and hope that there's going to be as good as that person is, or someone like, if you're Washington State, you lose Cam Ward, you're like, well, we're
screwed.
at square one. Yeah. That's where you don't want to go. Kansas State lost Will Howard, but they were ready to do that.
That's
right. That wasn't, they weren't like, they knew that when they said Avery Johnson's going to be the guy.
You're going to be as good or better.
They're going to be like, okay, like this is what we have to bet it all here on this guy who's dynamic and the best, player we've recruited in a decade. So, so I get that. But, it's going to be different. Bracket Cat doesn't think OU's in a good spot.
I don't either. Like, I don't want to crap on them or anything. Like, it's just, since the whole announcement came that they were coming to the SEC, I've been kind of curious of what their position's going to be and how they navigate this, man, because, like, they don't have the money. Like, they're going to have their donors and stuff, but it's different. Like, you could have the money and you can run in the Big 12, but over there, dude, it's they're going to be in a different pool. Yeah,
they really are. So we'll see what happens with them as we move on. All right, when we come back, does Arizona's coaching change how we feel about the Big – and, look, the Big 12 is as wide open as any conference in America next year. Because we really don't know who the best team's going to be, and this is almost the case for everybody in the middle, but at the top of the Big 12, it's where, because at the top of the SEC, like, look, we know that Georgia and Texas are both going to be really good next year. We don't really know about Alabama now for the first time ever. We know Ole Miss is going to be good. We know, like, so those LSU will probably be good, but we don't know. Like, we have Garrett Nussmeier, that we have to learn about. In the Big Ten, look, Ohio State and Michigan are going to be good. Oregon's going to be good. We don't know about Washington now.
Nope.
We kind of don't know about USC right now. We don't know about UCLA. So, there's a lot of questions. We don't know how good Iowa's necessarily going to be anymore. And I don't know how
should be good, but
I don't know how good they were necessarily if you grade them against everybody else.
Right.
Against the curve, I don't know how good they'd really be. But in the Big 12, who's the favorite next year?
Utah?
And here's what I'll tell you. If you ask Big 12 fans, if any of them had any kind of success this year, they'll say it's them.
Especially Oklahoma State fans.
Apparently so.
Oh my God.
Yeah. They really have assigned a lot of credibility to Alan Bowman. I know Ollie Gordon's coming back, but a lot on Alan Bowman. So we'll see. Let's talk about that next. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome back. Paul Catalina, Garrett Ross, and Garrett, the Big 12, again, we're prognosticating right now. The transfer portal's still open.
Yes.
Spring football still has to happen. There's another transfer portal out of that. But, when you start thinking about the SEC, like you start thinking, okay, Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers both back at their schools, that's going to set them up well. Ohio State's got Will Howard, plus they kept a lion's share of that roster and picked up Quinshon Judkins. They kept a lot of their defense. Like, Ohio State should be in a really good position. Michigan, I'm curious about because Jim Harbaugh's probably leaving.
Yeah.
Matt, by the way, remember what I said yesterday when we had that the news about his contract, about how he can't be fired for anything but like a brutal murder.
Yes, yes.
And you have to have a video of him actually committing it, like kind of
it's
a
like
thing.
Some Urban Meyer stuff. I want this in here.
Yeah. Like you actually have to have video of me, like being Hannibal Lecter to like get me, to fire me, kind of a deal. But Matt Brown from Extra Point said, this sounds like something that Michigan would leak to let their fans know that they tried everything they could do to keep Jim Harbaugh, and he was just going to the NFL. Because that's what I said.
Spot on.
That's what I said, was like, yeah, this is something you leak out. And then when they're like, well, why couldn't you keep him? They're like, well, we can't put ourselves in that position.
Like demands?
Yeah, we can't. Yeah, he wants a helicopter to go to Bali. I don't know what the deal is. He wants us to make sure we have plane tickets to all the non-extradition countries. I'm not sure. There's a lot of
that dude's weirdo, man.
Yeah, he's got people tied up in his office. We don't know, So you don't know about Michigan, but we know like Oregon is set up really well with Dylan Gabriel coming in, with Dante Moore being his backup.
Oregon's.
Yeah, and they're, Evan Stewart, like they already have, and they're losing a lot. They're losing Troy Franklin and Bo Nix and Bucky Irving and Brandon Dorless and Jackson Powers Johnson. And, like they're losing guys. Mm-hmm. So they got to rebuild too, but they appear to be set up fine. When you get to in the ACC, it's Florida State, Clemson, probably Miami now with Cam Ward, Louisville. Like, those are the teams that are probably going to battle it out. I wouldn't be surprised to see, NC State kind of get in the mix because they're going to be pretty efficient. But, I think that they're behind those other four, and you throw Cam Ward into Miami, and that's a different animal.
I just need to see it. I watched them a couple times last year. And they have some playmakers, but I need to see.
And the quarterback play was really bad.
It was terrible.
It was really bad. A lot of turnovers. And, we got to see what happens when you have that playmaker. And also now with Miami, you're those coaching decisions in the close games. Let's see if you make better ones. Mario, let's see if you do that.
Yeah.
But in the Big 12, it is absolutely wide open. So if you were talking about returning quarterbacks, let's just say that Noah Fafita stays loyal.
Correct.
And plays for Brent Brennan at Arizona. Okay. So he's returning. Cam Rising will be back, but he didn't play all year, so we don't really know if you're getting Cam Rising or you're getting the
which version?
The recycled version of Cam Rising. Baylor will have a new quarterback in DeQuan Finn, which I think will be an upgrade, but there's a lot of questions about.
I need to see the offense.
Yeah, we need to see how that happens. Tech has a returning quarterback in Baron Morton. Shadur Sanders is coming back, but we need to see everything else around Shadur work to say this is a team that can win the conference. Now, I do think that they've upgraded. They've got better people, more highly rated talent. But again, highly rated doesn't mean effective.
No, you got to put it on the field.
You got to put it on the field. So, Kansas State's got Avery Johnson. I'm going to call that a little bit of a returning quarterback because
that's a returning quarterback.
That's a returning quarterback. I mean, he played in the bowl game. We saw him throughout the year.
Jalen Daniels, but he missed last year.
Jalen Daniels missed most of last year. So, are you getting Jalen Daniels or getting the recycled version of Jalen Daniels? Alan Bowman made it through a whole year healthy for the first time in his life, and God bless him. I can't with that. Here's the deal. And I'm saying this, Oklahoma State fans, I know you're going to get mad. When you got a guy for a seventh year,
What are you doing recruiting?
I really don't think it's necessarily a good thing.
No.
If you can't, you're not going to, if you look at the quarterbacks that win titles, conference titles, and national titles, those guys, for the most part now, I'm not talking about Jason White, who won the Heisman Trophy and his shoulder was shredded and he didn't play in the NFL. I'm not talking, most of the time, your quarterback is going to at least have a short career as a backup in the NFL. That is not Alan Bowman's life, because if it was Alan Bowman's life, he would be living it right now. So he might be steady for you, but I don't think he's going to be spectacular.
You can't rely on him to win you a game.
Yeah. So, and there's going to be run defenses you play that aren't going to let Ollie Gordon get loose.
That's going to be
Ollie's going to have, in the 12 games they play, he's going to have 9 good to great games. I promise you that. He's that kind of player. But he's also going to have 3 games where it's like, well, they shut him down. Yeah. So I like the wide receivers they have. I really do. I like the other playmakers. I just don't know if you're not getting anything, like if Ollie Gordon gets shut down,
then you have nothing.
Are you going to be able to throw your way to wins enough to get to win the conference? This is not to be who you were last year to come in second in the conference. To win the conference, that's where I think that's where the rubber meets the road for me.
No, I can't realistically look at an Alan Bowman team, quarterback team, especially when we just listed off the gauntlet of quarterbacks coming in this league and think that realistically can put them in a position. I can't do that personally.
Yeah,
I don't have faith in it.
Yeah. BYU is going to have a new quarterback in this situation. I think that they're a little ways away. Houston's a little ways away. UCF with KJ Jefferson could be very interesting.
They should be better this year.
I think that they have other holes they've got to fill, but I do think that guy in Gus Malzahn's system will be very interesting.
No, he'll be very dangerous. You can expect a lot of quarterback runs there. I think they're going to be better, especially in the trenches. I think that's one area that they learned last year they were going to have to get better at. But yeah, UCF will definitely be in the mix. And I'm excited to watch KJ Jefferson in the Big 12. I think that's going to be fun, and just kind of seeing what he could do in that offense. I think they're going to be a team that can wreck some havoc.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you another team that has done pretty well retaining their players. They've lost a couple, but they've got some guys in the portal. Everybody in the Big 12 had a medium recruiting class. Like
that's going to be
that's how it's going to be.
That's
how it's going to be until it changes, until something happens. Colorado might be the first one to break through, but we'll even see then.
Yes,
we'll even see. We'll see. Where is Deion going to be able to, being in the Big 12, go in and get those 4 and 5 stars out of the SEC?
I don't.
We'll see. He's gotten a couple. Look, he's got, Travis Hunter would have been able to go wherever he wanted to. Cormani McClain would have been able to go wherever he wanted to. He's got a couple of those guys. He doesn't have the whole class full yet.
I think the window's short on that, though, because if you can't start putting the wins together, then what's the point of me coming to play for you? Why would I not go to Georgia and do the same thing, developed?
I know. He's got it.
The Big 12 needs Colorado and Deion to be successful.
Yeah,
they need that.
Yeah, I think that's a huge benefit to them of, because then when one school starts getting in those players and the other schools start to maybe draft off of it. It happened before. Maybe you just don't get to hoard them like the other ones do. But I think West Virginia,
they have everybody coming back.
They got everybody who really matters, save for a couple, are coming back. They've lost a couple good players, but man, I'm curious. Garrett Green started to kind of find himself last year. They still have Nico Marchiol there. They've got some depth at quarterback.
Their trenches, they're loaded in trenches.
They're good up front. So there's a team that I think could. This is they were 8-4. Now I know that a lot of people, are kind of or 9-4. I'm sorry, they're 9-4 because they ran past North Carolina in the bowl game, but. That's one I'm interested to see because I think Neil Brown proved a lot of doubters wrong. Now he still has them. I think the ones he still has are but the league wasn't as good.
Right, yeah.
You got lucky that you had this, you got to play this team and this team and this team. They did lose to Houston, though, in a Hail Mary. So,
that was a fluky thing.
But that was. So, but that shouldn't have been a team. They should have won that game. But, they did as good as you would have thought, because everybody thought they were going to lose to Penn State anyway.
They exceeded everybody's expectations.
Yeah, they were going to lose to Penn State anyway, And so, again, this is a league that is so ridiculously wide open. And while I do think that Noah Fafita staying at Arizona, keeps them in a good stead, we don't know what else is going to happen.
Yeah.
So it has changed my perception of them coming in, where I thought they might have been one of the favorites, considering they had a really good roster coming in, but we don't know what that roster is going to be now.
No,
because Jed Fish is now in Washington.
No, we don't. I hope that they stay because that would be good for the Big 12. They're exciting players. I think if you go and look at what Brent Brennan was able to do at San Jose State and the offense that he wanted to use, it's wide open. Like I remember watching the game with USC, and they gave USC hell in that matchup. So I think with Brent Brennan, if he can come in and keep those guys in place and bring in the people around him, they're going to be fine. But Arizona as a whole is going to take a step back. They're not the same program after this departure of Fish that they were. I think that they can keep it interesting and they can compete in the Big 12, but I'm not looking at them as a legitimate front runner the way I was last week.
No, I'm not either. I'm curious to see if, there's some thought that Will Rogers might pull himself out of the portal and stay at Washington.
I'm not buying Will Rogers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you said that anyway, but after Will Rogers, when it comes to quarterbacks, like every other quarterback on their roster has gone into the portal. Dylan Morris, Austin Mack, and like a walk-on today went in the portal. So their choices at quarterback start to get thin, at least for right now. The best one available, according to On3, would be Jordan McLeod, who was at James Madison last year. And a lot of thoughts that he might go to Indiana with Kurt Cignetti, but,
But at the same time, like, you also have another transfer window that's going to open up here.
Yeah, but for spring ball, that's going to be – that's going to put you a little behind.
There.
Yeah,
that's in a situation where what do you do? Do you start like saying walk-ons and come on to practice?
Well, yeah. So they've got a little bit of a situation. Like Dylan Morris went to JMU. I mean, so that's probably where he should have been in the first place. Anyway, when we come back, coaching changes abound in the NFL. Only one's been announced, and that's Gerard Mayo. But there are others. Jim Harbaugh interviewed for the Falcons job. Now, if you tell me he's going to come back to Michigan when he's probably about to interview for a third job, I would be floored if he actually decides no, I'm going to go back. No, I think he wants to got the national championship. He wants to get the Jimmy double play, the Pete Carroll double play, especially since Pete has it and he doesn't, and they didn't like each other.
That's personal.
Yeah, there we go.
That's personal.
The double play of national championship Super Bowl. We'll talk about that next. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
So we are back here on the Triple Option. Paul Catalina and Garrett Ross. The NFL has the coaching carousel going on right now. And not many college coaches are in the mix except for Jim Harbaugh right now.
Right.
I think that USC, at least in one phase, was done a favor that Lincoln Riley had a bit of an off year. And I don't here's what I think that the NFL is looking at Lincoln Riley right now. And ironically, this guy's on his staff. They don't want Cliff Kingsbury too.
No, yes. Yeah.
Where it's I don't know if this guy is committed enough to defense.
Yeah.
I read an article the other day that reports leaking out that Lincoln Riley demanded a change to the defensive staff, and he's the
no, he did not.
Okay. Here's the deal. He's the coach.
Yes,
he can do that. So yes, he should have demanded it.
He should have demanded it in Oklahoma.
That was a weird thing to be yeah. He had brought the same guys from Oklahoma, where that's why they weren't winning like they were. They were still really good, but they lost to Caleb Williams lost to Baylor. That's going to be
benched, and they brought in Rattler.
Yeah, I mean they roughed him up,
and was terrible.
But but they couldn't stop Baylor's, pretty straightforward offense at the time. Like, that was one of those things, he got exposed there a little bit because Baylor wasn't trying to do anything that was all that fancy. They were just running right at you in the wide zone. And Oklahoma was just watching Abrams like, hey, look at that. There he goes again.
There he goes.
Man, I don't want to get in front of him. He's really big. That hurts when you tackle guys like that. But I think Lincoln Riley would be the only other coach in the college cycle that makes sense to me, except for maybe Ryan Day. I do think Ryan Day, the kind of style he coaches, would do well in the NFL. But I also think that he's maybe not shown himself just yet to be that guy yet.
Yeah, I think he would have to.
It's got a couple more years, but he's still a young guy. So
yeah, I hadn't even thought about Ryan Day going to the NFL at all. He's never been a name that's even crossed my mind.
I think he would be one that they would look at. That's all I'm saying. It's like he seems to have that kind of.
It might benefit him, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. But Jim Harbaugh, I think is going to take the Chargers job.
Okay.
He interviewed with Atlanta, and I think he's probably going to take a third interview unless the Chargers hire him. But here's the difference. It's so funny when you see this. If you look at all the lists that like Seattle and all the teams that are open have, they're interviewing 7-8 guys.
Right.
Like they've requested interviews with all these different people. Now they may not get them all because, Aaron Glenn may not want to go to Seattle. Yeah. Like he may want to go to Atlanta or whatever. Or they have to still wait for him to get done to do the real interview anyway because he's still coaching. Ben Johnson, the Lions offensive coordinator too. He's going to be a head coach somewhere next year. I think he's going to be the head coach in Washington. That's my guess. So, new owner, new GM, young, exciting offensive coordinator, new quarterback.
I would take it. I would take it.
Yeah,
that would overdue.
Yeah, that would to me seem to be a nice little stretch there. So, but there are you see all this, and also look, if Mike McCarthy gets fired in the next couple of days, which I kind of think he's going to
happen.
I think it's going to happen. Because I think it's the only way you can answer the question, what do we do next? Yeah. Which is still they've got. I mean, what do you do next? You're doing, and here's the thing that people may because you might be Cowboy haters or that whatever. They're doing almost everything right.
Yeah.
They're right there. If you were doing a blind taste test of NFL teams and you got Cowboys, you'd be like, oh, it's
pretty good.
This is quite good. And then you'd get something Chiefs, you're like, oh, this is delicious. This is way better than Cowboys. Even the bad version of this is still better.
Then you get Carolina.
I don't know. Yeah, and then you get that. But so what is this one? What ingredient does this one have that's not Patrick Mahomes? Oh, Baltimore, that's lovely. That's lovely. That's got a nice little, fresh taste to it. And then the Cowboys it's really good. It's just missing. I don't know what it's missing. And they don't know. You couldn't pick out the ingredient. You could have Gordon Ramsay and Emeril and all these chefs trying to figure it out. And they're like, I don't know. Because most teams would be like, I would love that to be 12 wins 3 years in a row. They'll have an interview list that's 3 people long because Jerry will have the person he wants to hire.
Yeah.
He'll interview 2 people to satisfy the Rooney Rule and 1 more just because he's curious about him, and then it'll be over.
Yeah.
And
I think one thing that I didn't think about, and this isn't the Cowboys, but it's coaching search in general, was the dynamic of Belichick interviewing. If he did take that Falcons job, I never thought about that whole dynamic. I heard him talking about that on the radio this morning, and that's kind of a fascinating thing where you have that, and you come back and win, and you have to go be their coach after that.
He's got 15. Yeah. He's got 15 wins until he's the all-time leader.
Yeah.
You could get probably 11 of them with this Cowboys roster next year.
You could.
So, now look, again, the Cowboys are in a weird spot. They have to figure out how they get, with what they have in the roster now, how they maximize this talent with the best pass rusher in the NFC and maybe the best pass rusher in the NFL. Respect to Myles Garrett and TJ Watt, top 3 of that. One of the best wide receivers in the NFL and a quarterback who's better than most.
Yeah.
Better than most.
Yeah.
And off his best career season. As where some of these other teams, the Falcons have everything else in place with the quarterback, but that's the hardest thing to find. The Chargers have the quarterback and a couple other things in place, pass rusher, left tackle, and some young wide receivers and some veterans. But they also have some salary cap issues. So, like, it depends, like, what's more attractive. Here's what I know. I don't know what's the most attractive job on the market. I just know what the least attractive one is, and it's Carolina.
Oh, without a doubt.
Because
I'm not going nowhere near David Tepper.
Yeah, it's like the NFL has to have a crazy quotient, and so like they cast out Daniel Snyder, but like on his way out though, he was like, Carolina.
Take the juju.
You know, like Voldemort.
Yes.
That's what happened. He like Voldemort, where he's like still around, and like now his apostate is is there, and yeah, like I know that like and they're going to get somebody because they're an NFL team. They're not going to not get somebody, but they're going to have some coaches that they call, and then David Tepper will be like, "Hey, Jim Harbaugh, would you like to come here? We have Bryce Young. You played against Bryce. Remember that game? You played against him a couple years ago. He was really good. He beat you. Remember? Yeah. All right. You can come in here and help Bryce Young." And he's like, "Who is this?"
Yeah, exactly.
No, I'm good. I'm gonna.
What about Vrabel? Like now that it's off the New England's off the table. What do you do? Where do you go from there if you're Vrabel?
I think Seattle's a good fit for Vrabel. I actually think Dallas would be a good fit for Vrabel. I think that he has that kind of edge maybe that they need, and he's never had a roster that is top to bottom as talented as it is.
Right.
And
or a quarterback. I mean, technically.
He hasn't look. Ask 100 people who you'd rather have, Dak Prescott or Ryan Tannehill. 100 of them will say, 99 of them will say Dak Prescott, and the 100th one, that's Ryan Tannehill's mom. You know? And even she's like, wait a minute.
Let me think about this.
Let me think about it. Not at Thanksgiving. Just, I want to see my son and my grandchildren. But you were just talking about winning a game. No, I think, he'll have that. So that would be interesting. I think Seattle's a really good fit for him. Even though Geno Smith's been good, but that's not the long-term thing. I think the Chargers would be good for him if they weren't going to hire Harbaugh. I think Atlanta would be great for Vrabel. The problem is that they just had Arthur Smith, and he's a Vrabel guy. So I don't know. Again, and I don't know. There's 7 open jobs right now?
I believe so.
Yeah. So who haven't we mentioned? Carolina, who knows? Vegas, I think he'd be good in Vegas, but I think Antonio Pierce is going to get that job.
Yeah, especially with the
should.
Max Crosby flicks.
Oh, look, he totally should. You know, the Titans are an interesting one to me because that is almost a rebuild. Because
that's a major rebuild.
Here's the deal: Derrick Henry's a free agent, and he has already said his goodbyes.
Yeah,
he doesn't think he's coming back. He's gone. He's probably gonna sign a series of short contracts with a team or teams that can help him.
Kind of like Adrian Peterson did.
Yeah, like he doesn't have a ring. It would not shock me to see him wind up in Baltimore or Dallas or a team that is going to be in the playoffs and be there.
Right.
That's because at this point, this is what he, other than growing his stats and building his Hall of Fame resume, he wants to get a win.
Yeah,
and he's also the best teammate in the entire world. So in addition to getting a guy who still has some tread on the tires, you're getting a dude who's going to be great in your locker room. So wouldn't surprise me to see him do that. But the Titan, that one is open and still, that's a rebuild. So what do you do if you're the Titans? A lot of people think Aaron Glenn because they're kind of maybe a defensive based organization. So it wouldn't surprise me to see Aaron Glenn get that job, but
maybe. I don't know, because you're going to have somebody come in that just start from the ground up.
Their defense has some guys like Jeffrey Simmons and others that are good, so you can kind of build through that. But I don't know, they've got a lot of questions. If I were them, I would hire Bobby Slowick because then you take him away from the Texans.
Yeah,
and he's on the way up. But again, he's still a young coach. But I think DeMeco Ryans proved that that's not really that big of a deal.
No, not at all.
Sean McVay proved it's not a big deal. Kyle Shanahan proved it's not a big deal. When you're ready, you're ready.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can keep trying to put these guys through an internship, but when they're ready.
That's another thing too. Is like it's quit recycling people and give other people new opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what
annoys the hell out of me.
Yeah, I do think like Dan Campbell's he's gonna have the best year in Detroit history and ever, and they right now. I mean, they're going to be favored to be in the NFC Championship game, which again before the Cowboys and Washington get back, the Lions get there.
Don't break my heart.
Yeah, but I also refuse to call them. I don't know if you've noticed this. I refuse to call them the Commanders.
I'm not. I hate it. It's stupid. The uniforms are pathetic. It's like a damn makeup team.
I liked the W at first. Like I thought, like that's good. And then I looked at it and was like, no, it's
pointless.
They just did this in
it's like photo
Apple Paint.
Yeah, it's, that's what that's what always turned me off about the Texans. Like, do you remember when the Texans were being brought in as the new team and they allowed the fans to draw the logo and come up with the logo, and you got that stupid logo you have now? Yeah. Like, that's what I've always turned me. Like, I was hoping that Houston would have a cool franchise, and then they came out with that, and I was like, nah, I can't rock with this.
I wish. Here's the difference. Art Modell acquiesced to the NFL when they said, look, we're going to put a team in Cleveland and it's going to be called the Browns. Mm-hmm. And he's like, yeah, I don't give a crap.
Yeah.
I'm not, ironically, the team that's owned by the Brown, like the actual person it's named after is the Bengals. Yeah. But anyway,
that was weird.
But the Browns, so they're going to have the Browns, right? I wish that the NFL had been like, listen, the Oilers name lives in Houston.
Yes, it should.
It just lives in Houston. But Bud Adams is he was like, it's not going to. I'm mad at that city, and they're not going to have anything that he was mad at them, and he was going to keep it forever. And he's passed it on down the line because he's like, hey, we're going to play a home game against you here in Nashville. And we're going to wear the uniforms that all your fans like better than the ones you have now.
Ugh, it sucked, dude.
They lost, but I
hate it. Like, it's not like growing. Like, I was all like in my house. It was either you're a Houston Oiler fan or you're Washington. Right. Like, so and both of them, it's just been a disaster.
Okay, and so with the Texas name, like the Commanders name, is a really lazy name.
It's pathetic. Yes,
it's a really lazy name. Like, I'm not knocking the fans or anything like that. I just think that
I've always
thought this. Like, what could we be? Well, we're in Texas. There was the Dallas Texans, who also they're now the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. Like, that wasn't a good name either. No. Like, it was, when you think of
creative.
Yes, the Dallas Cowboys. That's a good name. Like you look at the teams that the Astros, great name. Rockets, great name. Texans, the one that you were just like, yeah, you know what? Like,
it's there.
Put it on the T-shirt. We're done. Let's move on. Let's move on to concessions. Like, that's kind of how it felt. Anyway, well, that's 2:02. We've gone over long with kind of a rambling segment there, but I don't care. The show's about rambling. I'm Paul Catalina. He's Garrett Ross. Jack McKenzie, thanks for producing. We're backing in tomorrow. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.